West Ham will let Rice go for the right price, says Kieran Gill. West Ham resigned to losing Rice this summer if an appropriate offer arrives for their £100 million rated captain. I suppose the question is, Jason, will someone pay £100 million for Declan Rice?
That is the £100 million question, isn't it? Absolutely. I think that may be a little bit high. There will be bids. There will definitely be people coming in for him this summer. I think Arsenal's interest is well documented. Whether or not they actually follow that through remains to be seen. But I do think Kieran is right. I think West Ham are prepared to let him go this summer in the way they weren't last summer. It feels a little bit like it's run its course for him at West Ham. I don't want to offend West Ham fans, but it feels a little bit like Declan Rice has outgrown the club, and that maybe it's the right opportunity for him now to go if they get the right offer. I suspect they may get an offer for less than they want, and then that becomes a difficult situation. What do they then accept? How acceptable is the offer they're going to get? He's got one more year left on his contract, but that's slightly deceptive because there's a 12-month extension that can be triggered, and West Ham will basically say to all suitors, that's 2 more years for a player who's coming into his prime, a key player for England and for the club. So they'll want that 100 million. They'll benchmark it against the money, I think, that Aston Villa received for Jack Grealish when that clause was triggered to release him. So I think they will want at least £100 million for him. I'm not sure anyone will bid that high, but it'll be quite interesting to see where he ends up.
And of course, wherever he ends up, he may well be a European trophy winner as well, with them going so well in the Conference League. John, Jason mentioned Arsenal there. I mean, just how much interest do we expect all of the top clubs to be in for Rice if it does seem inevitable now that he will move on?
Yeah, look, I think Arsenal are favourites in the race. I do think that I think more than likely he will end up being an Arsenal player. You know, I think that Arsenal put in a lot of groundwork as clubs do ahead of the summer. And, you know, frankly, they've overtaken rivals that have definitely shown an interest in the past. So I do think they find themselves in pole position for Rice. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that basically Arsenal really want to build on this season. They've been fantastic this season, haven't they? Absolutely amazing. Really taken a Premier League title on and sort of made that challenge. And I do think midfield is perhaps the area. I think they're looking for not just one, but 2 midfielders. Rice, the absolute #1 target. Listen, we've also done a story tonight saying that, you know, Granit Xhaka is being targeted by Leverkusen. So, you know, I do think there's interest in, you know, other from other clubs, because they can see that maybe, just maybe, Arsenal, you know, might strengthen and do those options. But Xhaka has had a fabulous season and been brilliant. So I don't think there's a particular rush to sell. But I do think also that Rice, what is interesting to me is that he could be a backup for Partey, or, you know, in competition for Partey, I should say, or indeed that, you know, big marauding role forward in midfield. He can play either role. He's that good, and I do think there'll be a huge clamour for him. But I do think Arsenal find themselves in pole position just right now. And
it could be an interesting summer of moves for 2 England midfielders, not only Declan Rice, of course, Jason, but Jude Bellingham as well. Is Bellingham really now the benchmark that we compare with, not only calibre of player but the price as well?
Yeah, and I think that will also affect the market. Again, for a player like Declan Rice, because if Jude Bellingham goes for in excess of £100 million, which will happen, it will certainly not be less than that, and it will probably be nearer 120, 125, 130 million, then clearly he will become the benchmark in terms of what other clubs will ask for their players. And Bellingham plays in the same England team as Declan Rice, so West Ham will be totally within their rights to say, hang on a minute, you know, our captain is tried and trusted, proven in the Premier League. You know, if Jude Bellingham, okay, a fantastic talent, is going for 120, 130 million, then we should expect at least 100 million for Declan Rice. So there may well be a domino effect onto that. And obviously, if Manchester City lose out on Jude Bellingham, will they, you know, try and gazump Arsenal's hopes of signing Rice?